Every year we see a new crop of NBA talent enter the final year of their current contract, and all of a sudden we see these guys start acting different on the court. When you're about to hit free agency the next summer, front offices tend to use the "what have you done for me lately" line of reasoning, which means, for better or for worse, that last season is going to determine how much money teams are willing to offer you on the open market, and while some guys ball out and boost their value, we also see quite a few guys every season start the year with big expectations, only to then end up squandering the opportunity, playing poorly, and fumbling the bag. That's exactly what we'll be discussing in today's video, as we will be going through the 5 impending free agents this summer that fumbled the bag the hardest this season. Before we start though, it turns out a good amount of you watching right now aren't even subscribed to the channel, so if you enjoy the content, consider hitting the subscribe button, as not only does it help out a ton, but it also very much appreciate it. Now with that being said, let's begin. The first impending free agent that fumbled the bag this season is Jonathan Kuminga of the Golden State Warriors. Kuminga's time with the Warriors since he was drafted by them in the lottery of the 2021 NBA draft has been a roller coaster ride filled with so many ups and downs. As a long 6'8" explosive athlete, he entered the league with a pretty raw skill set, but his upside had flashed on quite a few occasions as a dangerous slasher with the necessary tools to be elite on the defensive end. Playing for a coach like Steve Kerr is never easy for a young guy though, because Kerr is one of the most strict coaches in the NBA when it comes to having players know their role, memorizing their coverages and rotations on defense, nailing the playbook, and limiting mistakes, and if you can't do that regularly, you're going to be on a tight leash. Kuminga can do some great things on a basketball court, but he's always struggled with the little things like that, especially when it comes to knowing defensive coverages inside and out. Yet last season, it did look like Kuminga has finally started to mature a little bit, and he took off at the end of last season where he posted career highs overall on the year of 16 points and 5 rebounds per game, shooting 53% from the field. With Klay Thompson moving on this summer, there was a lot of chatter going into this season about Kuminga potentially being the one to step into the number 2 role next to Steph Curry on offense, and a breakout seemed imminent in the last year of his contract, which undoubtedly would have resulted in close to a max contract coming his way based on the current landscape of how promising young players get paid for their second contracts. But unfortunately, Kuminga ended up taking a pretty big step backwards this season, and now in the playoffs, he's not even in the team's rotation. Kuminga unfortunately was never able to become even a league average 3-point shooter. He has some bad tendencies to do too much with the ball in his hands instead of making quick decisions with it, and both his scoring and efficiency numbers reduced this year as well, while also continuing to struggle to get the little things down on defense. Kuminga is an example of someone having all the talent in the world, but struggling to figure out how to use it, and going into a summer as a free agent, he's probably going to struggle to attract big money offers that seemed inevitable 1 year ago. The next impending free agent that fumbled the bag this season is D'Angelo Russell of the Brooklyn Nets. D'Angelo Russell was once one of the most entertaining and electrifying guards in the game, who has admittedly been one of the most hot and cold players since the day he was drafted, but at his peak, he was an all-star, who has shown on countless occasions he can rise in big clutch moments. Ever since 2019, he has, at the very least, been about an 18-point per game scorer, who on any given night could heat up and drop the occasional 30-piece to take over a game. He may have been far from consistent, but you need guys to have the ability to create for themselves, put pressure on defenses, and make plays with a bit of creativity, and D'Lo historically has been just that. He's definitely had his fair share of frustrating moments and disappointing shortcomings, don't get me wrong, but in general, he's been an above-average point guard. That is, until this year. Let's be honest, Lakers fans can at times be a bit intense with how they treat role players on their teams, but this season, their constant slander of Russell seemed pretty justified, as he has had the worst season of his entire career by far, and when the Lakers traded him to Brooklyn early on in the season, he still still was not able to turn things around with a fresh start elsewhere. D'Lo scored a career-worst 12.6 points per game this season, while also shooting a career-worst 39% from the field and another career-worst 31% from three. Volume scoring has always been one of the few things he's done well on the floor, so if he can't even reliably knock down shots, then he becomes a pretty massive negative. He's a liability on the defensive end, he's a decent passer at best without the greatest instincts as a passer, and now at age 29, he's entering free agency unlikely to garner any substantial offers whatsoever, when this should be the age that a possible max contract could have been on the table for him. This is supposed to be his prime, but unfortunately, he already seems to be sunsetting. The next player that fumbled the bag this season is Julius Randle of the Minnesota Timberwolves. Julius Randle is a difficult player to decipher, as he has for years now produced at a very high level every regular season, and in his time spent on the New York Knicks, he racked up quite a few notable individual accolades. As a Knick, he was a 3-time All-Star, a winner of the league's Most Improved Player award, and a 2-time member of the All-NBA team. At his best, he was a walking double-double, putting up 25 points and 10 rebounds per game, abusing weaker defenders in the paint, scoring off the dribble, and dominating mismatches every chance he got. On the flip side, though, he would then go on to struggle mightily in the playoffs every year, so it became really tough to fully trust him as a team with lofty ambitions. But even with that being the case, the numbers he put up absolutely would have warranted a big-time contract extension. The Knicks probably knew that was the case, and with this being the last year of his current contract, they decided they would not be the ones to pay up, so they traded him to Minnesota, where on paper, there was still plenty of opportunity for him to fill in on offense, but instead, Randle has really struggled to get acclimated to his new squad and is having his worst season since 2018. He's scoring just 18.7 points and grabbing just 7.1 rebounds with mediocre shooting splits, but worst of all is that the numbers show that the Timberwolves are actually about 5 points worse per 100 possessions with him on the court. He's no longer viewed as a star in the league anymore, and with his questionable playoff production and ball-dominant play style, investing a max contract in him would just be malpractice. So he's going to end up settling for much less on the open market in all likelihood. The next player that fumbled the bag this season is Tyus Jones of the Phoenix Suns. Last offseason, Tyus Jones was viewed as one of the best point guards available on the market, as he was also a free agent last summer, and after being arguably the best backup point guard in the league in his time with the Memphis Grizzlies, that was then followed by a solid breakout season with the Wizards last year, his steady presence and his consistent and efficient play style was attracting some pretty solid offers on the open market. Reports have claimed that he was getting offers pushing about $20 million per year in that range last offseason, but he chose to sign a 1-year contract with the Phoenix Suns worth just $3.3 million because he wanted to sacrifice in order to play on a title contender and then cash out afterward. Well, that decision ended up blowing up in his face, and in hindsight is one of the biggest regrets he will probably make, because not only did the Suns completely flame out and miss the playoffs altogether, but Tyus ended up losing his starting point guard spot at the end of the season, and his value has tanked a bit going into free agency this time around. He could safely be under contract being paid handsomely right now if he took the biggest offers that were on the table last offseason, but now he's probably going to only be viewed as a backup point guard, which means backup point guard money is all he's going to get. Tyus Jones is a very good three-point shooter, but he's not the quickest player in the world. He's a subpar athlete, he's undersized for a point guard, and he's a pretty bad defender, so even though he plays smart at the helm, his ceiling is incredibly limited, and that got exposed quite a bit this season in Phoenix. And finally, the last player we'll be discussing today that fumbled the bag this season is Malcolm Brogdon of the Washington Wizards. Now, I'll preface this one by saying that this season was definitely hampered by injuries for him, as he only managed to be on the court for 24 games, but when he was healthy, his play took a sizable step backwards, and at 32 years old, it's incredibly tough to look past these things. Just 2 years ago, Brogdon was the NBA's 6th Man of the Year winner in Boston, mistaken. And last season, he had a year in Portland where he scored even more points per game than he did during that previous award-winning year, while still sinking 41% of his threes, playing smart, efficient basketball. Brogdon has been one of the best role players in the NBA since he was drafted, capable of doing the little things that don't show up in the box score, filling in wherever necessary, serving as a playmaker on a bunch of winning teams, and defending on the perimeter well. And he would have been one of the most highly coveted players on the open market if he was a free agent just last year, but a lot can change in one season, and for him, things changed for the worse. This year, he shot the ball terribly, making just 29% of his threes, his health became a major cause for concern, and he's noticeably losing a step. So while he's definitely still someone worth taking a swing on, he's not going to be seeing massive offers for those services anymore. And with that being said, that's all I have for you today. Make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and comment down below what you think about these impending free agents. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all next time.